Hello, it is yet another week. I am therefore creating another video because it is due time that I create another video. I'm going to a kickback today. I'm excited for this kickback. My social circle is not that big. Surprise, surprise. Before I continue talking, I'm gonna really quickly curl the fronts of my bangs because, yeah, anyway, this would be a good thumbnail. It looks like I'm cutting my bangs, right? And people, you know, they're all for the transformation station. So I thought I would take the time today to talk about something that I don't think I talk about too much. You know, I don't think that I choose to be alone all of the time. It's just that my line of work requires me to be at home and kind of secluded from any external sources of new ideas and conversation. That kind of sounded sadder than I had hoped for it to sound. But yeah, I'm excited for this because I'll get to meet new people, have cool conversations, just have a second to relax. And truthfully, I really do enjoy meeting new people. It's just, you know, I have maybe a total of 2 friends and 3 jokes, and my 2 friends suffer on the daily from me repeating those 3 jokes like all the time. And so, well, to me, they're funny, you know, they're my 3 jokes. Those are the 3 jokes that I have in my back pocket all the time for all conversations. They're very good jokes. Apparently my friends think that I overuse them. It's fine, it's their loss. But whenever I meet a bunch of new people, I get to reduce, reuse, and recycle all 3 of my great jokes. And you know, they're actually very delighted when hearing my jokes. And so that's why I enjoy meeting new people. It's because I get to reduce, reuse, and recycle my 3 jokes. The topic I wanted to talk about and share with you today, of course, is the reason why you clicked on this video. I kind of wanted to talk about the summer after high school. Now, you guys probably think that I spent my summer after high school like getting drunk and hooking up with boys before college, but it was nothing of that sort. But in order for me to kind of tell that story about the summer after high school, I would need to fill you in a little bit on the details prior. When I started high school, I was very ambitious. And by ambitious, I mean I wanted to go to an Ivy League school. Looking back on that endeavor, I realized that's kind of a pointless dream. That's not to say that they don't offer really great education. It's just that I had a very narrow worldview when I had come up with this dream. I did not realize that you can accomplish a lot without having attended an Ivy League school. Anyway, in high school, I had a very small worldview. I was kind of an overachiever because I thought that that would be the right path towards an Ivy League school. So I worked really hard. I took like a bunch of AP classes. I joined the swim team, not knowing how to swim. I was on the board for like 5 different clubs. I don't even know how I managed my time back then. Like, how did I go to school at 7 o'clock in the morning and then swim right after school from like 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, come home, do all of my homework, and then dedicate my weekends to clubs and extracurricular activity? Like, what a freaking weirdo I was back then. Why did I do that? I was kind of an overachiever in the most obnoxious way possible. The people that I hung out with were also very high achieving like students. We were kind of like stick up our asses kind of students. Like, we would be very competitive with each other. We took basically the same classes, all AP classes, and we were all involved in the same extracurricular activities, you know, student body, volunteering, honor society, joined a sport, yeah. So you kind of get the idea of where I'm going for. I was that obnoxious bitch. I thought all of this mattered. So, you know, I did all the work. I took a bunch of AP classes, did all my extracurriculars, and come senior year, I felt like I was ready for this season, you know, this admission season. I had taken all my SATs. I had all my recommendation letters lined up. My dream school at the moment was to apply and get into Stanford. Some of my friends wanted to get into Stanford as well. Yeah, and it became kind of a competition. At least in my mind, it felt like a competition to see who would get admitted to Stanford. My family, my extended family at least, had never attended an Ivy League school or private school at the level of Stanford. And so I wanted to be the first. So I focused a lot of my energies towards perfecting my Stanford application. All of the other applications kind of didn't really matter too much. I applied to some other places. Of course, being from California, I applied to the UC. And the nice thing about the UC application is that when you apply to one school, you can use that application to apply to maybe like 4 other schools. So that was the nice thing about applying to the UCs. UCs. Of course, I didn't want to go to the UCs. So all of the efforts that I put into my applications was going towards my Stanford application. After 3 months of working on college applications, trying to do last minute studying to see if I could scramble to get my SAT scores to be just a little bit higher to make myself more impressive as a candidate. Yeah, after 3 months of all of that, I submit all of my applications. Second semester of my senior year, it was just out of my control. I was just waiting to hear back from colleges. I don't think you hear back from colleges until maybe March of the following year. Second semester was very lax for me. There was nothing that I needed to do in order to impress any college admissions officers because it was all said and done. I had already submitted my applications. And so I just said, fuck it. I worked really hard. I think I deserve to kind of relax and enjoy my last semester of high school. 3 months passed. Private schools tend to take a little bit longer to release admissions, whereas the UCs, public schools, tend to let their students know a little bit earlier on. And so I get into all of the UCs that I applied to, with the exception of one, and I was like, okay, this is great. I applied to UC Davis, Irvine, San Diego, UCLA, and Berkeley. I was very grateful to have, gotten into those schools because I knew I had somewhere to go. I wasn't gonna, be the disappointing person in my family, but those weren't my dream schools. Everyone's gonna be like, why are you complaining about getting into those UCs when other people don't have a chance to go to I'm sorry, everyone. I had a dream and I was looking forward to achieving those dreams. And we all have dreams too. Anyway, the UCs released their admissions maybe like a month before private schools did. And so for a month, it was a nice feeling knowing that, okay, if I don't get accepted by any of the private schools that I applied to, I have a plan B. For a month, I was waiting in anticipation for an email from Stanford. And I remember this day too, exactly April 1st. At this time in the school year, I had just started swim season. I was a swimmer on the swim team. On April 1st, I knew that Stanford was going to be releasing, their decisions. I was at a swim meet when it happened. I was checking my phone constantly, waiting for an email from Stanford. Right as the swim meet ended and I got home, I got the email and I was kind of fucking scared to open it. I opened up my laptop just as I'm ready to punch in my username and my password to my student portal. I get a text from one of my friends whose dream school was also Stanford, and he tells me he didn't get in and he's asking for my result. And I told him I don't know yet. I'm punching in my login info and I swear that was the longest 5 seconds of my life. My heart was swelling up in my chest. It was right at my throat. I feel like I could throw up. Once the page loaded, I was kind of in shock. I didn't know what to expect. I did not get rejected, but I also didn't get accepted. And so I was waitlisted. And so I was very disappointed. I went to the kind of school where everyone talks about what schools you got into. And so if you didn't get into a good school, then people would judge you based off of which schools you got into. After April 1st, we had a full month to decide where we wanted to submit our intent to register. We had a month to think about it. I left it to the last moment to SIR. So between April 1st and May 1st, I toured a bunch of college campuses. I ended up picking UC Berkeley, which is kind of ironic because I wanted to go to Stanford so bad and I ended up picking UC Berkeley, which is their rival. So I picked UC Berkeley and I hyped myself up to the idea that it's very unlikely that I'm going to be taken off of Stanford's waitlist. Because if you get accepted by Stanford, you fucking go to Stanford. I was coming to terms with the fact that I was going to go to UC Berkeley. I was going to be a bear. I finished the rest of my senior year as a person who has their heart and their intentions of attending UC Berkeley. I finished high school with high hopes that I'm going to have a great summer. I was already imagining myself at the school. I graduate high school and I have a pretty amazing summer, I have to say, because this was my first summer where I did not take, an extra class or I didn't volunteer my time. This was just my summer. It was around July. I was getting everything in place for me to start at UC Berkeley. So I was looking at dorm rooms, I was picking out meal plans, I was shopping for dorm room stuff, and it was all really exciting. It's the first time that I would get to move out of my house and not have to deal with parents. I was so ready to move out. Around July, so UC Berkeley is on the semester system, so they would start school maybe late August. And I get a call from my designated admissions officer. They they call me and say, your application is currently under review. And that's fucking weird to me, because I'm like, all my life I have been pretty like particular, very hardworking. I make sure there are no errors, like super type A personality. They just tell me that my application is currently under review, that it's probably nothing. And so I carry on with my day-to-day. You know, I had already paid my room and board deposit and all that stuff. Fast forward a week from that first initial call from my admissions officer, and they tell me that I am rescinded. That was fucking news to me. And I asked them why. Like, what did I do? Did I violate any of the conditions of my admissions? And so they tell me, yes, I did. And I was just in shock. They told me that after review, one of the grades on my transcript was not consistent with what I reported. Me, you know, in shock, I scramble through my documents. Right after you submit your application, you're allowed to keep a copy of what you had submitted. I looked through my transcripts, my high school transcripts, and all of them were fine. I was checking back and forth. I was like, okay, this looks correct. And then I move on to my one college transcript. I had taken a class at UCLA after the summer of my junior year, and I didn't do too well in that class. I see that what I had submitted, so on the transcript, it was a D. So I didn't do too well in that class. When I had applied to the UCLA Bridge program, which is a program that allows high schoolers to kind of sample college classes, they didn't tell me the prereqs to one of the classes that I took, which was a computer science class. And so I took it, and I guess my level of mathematics wasn't quite at the level that they were discussing. They were talking about some algorithms or some shit, and I didn't do too well. Admittedly, that was my fault. I should have asked. And so I got a D in that class. And on the transcript, it was a D. And I looked at what I reported, it was a W. Now me, being in high school, didn't know that a W actually meant something. In my mind, it seemed like a silly mistake. I realized then that, you know, I had just lost my backup school, which was the whole point of me applying to all the UCs. I have no school to go to. When they finalized everything, they said, you know, we understand it might have been a small mistake, but you did violate your terms and your conditions of admissions. I was heartbroken for like a week. I never thought me, you know, like I was so careful all throughout high school. And part of it, I kind of partly blame myself as because I was really focused on my Stanford application. I was working on it till maybe like 5 minutes before it was the deadline to submit. I was neglecting a lot of my other applications. And so to be fair, I was very lucky that any of the UCs found any interest in me at all. I just felt like I had no direction. And at that time I was still 17. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be like homeless and lonely because I didn't go to college or whatever. But that's not true. That's just what high schools want you to believe, because high schools get more funding if more of their students or a greater percentage of their students go to college. I thought my world had ended. How stupid of me, right? But in the moment, I felt particularly devastated. I felt like I was made a fool. I had just gotten excited about going to this school, and then they took it away from me. Granted, I actually lost it. They didn't take it away from me. I lost it myself. It was my fault. Maybe around like mid-August was when I decided I cannot wait around and let this affect me. And so I applied to a bunch of community colleges. Looking back, applying to a community college was the best thing that happened to me. And I'll tell you more about my experience in community college later on, but it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. Yeah, it all worked out in the end. After going to community college, I ended up applying again to transfer, and I got accepted by UCLA, and guess who accepted Mrs. Terri Tang one more time? UC Berkeley. But I chose UCLA. One of the reasons why I chose UCLA was because I was majoring in mathematics, or had chosen mathematics, and UCLA is just way cooler and way better. And plus it's in LA. Like, who wants to live in Berkeley when you live in LA? I'm just kidding. I've been to Berkeley and I actually really love the city. But yeah, hindsight is 2020. I was very happy with my experience in college, in community college, and I was very happy with my experience at UCLA. I'm all good now. The story took like kind of a sad turn there. You don't have to feel sorry for me, or don't feel bad for me. The funny thing is though, is that when I applied to UC Berkeley as a high schooler, UC Berkeley was like the #1 public university in the world or whatever. And when I applied for transfer, it was a #2. And guess which school is the best public university in the world now? All of it ended up working out. I only wanted to share this story with you because someone watching this would realize, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. At any point in your life, that one dream might feel like everything, but you got to make sure that, you know, you're tending to other aspects in your life as well. When I was applying to colleges, I was hyper focused in one area or on one application that I let all others, you know, slip up. But the other thing that I learned as well is that even if you do slip up, you know, after all of the care and attention that you put into whatever it is that you're working on, things just work out if you pick yourself up and continue to try. Whew, that was a long story. So I know you're absolutely dying to see my silly little outfit that I'm gonna wear to my silly little get-together. It's really simple. I'm going to a really casual get-together, and I just want to be comfortable. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me on today's ramble jamble of a story, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.